From the Alex Trebek stage at Sony Picture Studios, this is Inside Jeopardy!
I'm alive. Johnny Gilbert has brought me back to life. Hello, welcome back to Inside Jeopardy, your exclusive and official podcast destination for all things happening in the world of Jeopardy. I'm Michael Davies, and I'm joined today by producer Sarah Foss.
Here we are on YouTube, if you're watching.
Yep.
On all the places, if you're listening. And, we're doing this monthly pod now.
Yeah.
And, a little different cadence, but a lot to talk about because...
For now, we're doing it monthly.
For now.
This may change at some point in the future.
Yes, I like change.
Yeah.
I'm good with change.
Yeah.
But people have been talking about the fact that, just this past week, June 2nd was the time that Ken first became a Jeopardy champion 21 years ago, back in 2004. Hard to believe. It's still the story I love so much. The real American dream. Who could have known that a 10-year-old watching on the Air Force Armed Forces Network would end up being our host?
Yeah, Jeopardy has changed so many lives, and perhaps none more than Ken Jennings, yourself, Sarah Foss,
Certainly
me.
my life, yes.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Well, Ken Jennings, I don't know if anyone has caught the new Happy Gilmore 2 trailer.
Oh, wow.
We made the trailer, Michael.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, it just was released last weekend at Toodum, Netflix's big...
Ta-dum.
Ta-dum.
Yeah.
Yeah, their big event. They
Yeah.
released the new trailer. It's quick. You see Ken very quickly. But the point is, there's so many cameos in this film, and we are happy to officially announce that Jeopardy will be a part of Happy Gilmore 2, coming out July 25th on Netflix, and we'll have a special category leading up to that as well.
Okay, so in JAT, tell me where we are, because in JPT, we finished producing for the season.
Yes.
As I said to Jeopardy alum Roger Craig today, who I checked in with, I said, this is the most terrifying time of year for my staff, because this is when I sit around without Jeopardy to produce and just new ideas.
Yeah, dangerous time. Okay,
enact
in
upon the world.
JAT, we've had two recent 3-game champions. So what we don't know is, does that mean they're in the TOC? Does that mean they're in Champions Wildcard? We have to have more weeks of shows before that can be determined. But we had Jeff Barnes, great contestant from Washington, D.C., and also Brendan Liao.
Yeah.
He got quite a lot of stir because for the first time ever, Johnny Gilbert introduced him as a stay-at-home son. So much that even the Wall Street Journal picked up on this. They were doing a story of how there are a lot of recent graduates who are not employed. In fact, just last week we saw one on Jeopardy. And, when Brendan was asked by the Wall Street Journal, what do you hope the other stay-at-home sons take away from your success on Jeopardy? He said, it can get a little dark at times when you're just like, what am I doing? I'm just at home. But I would tell people to keep the faith, hang in there, and hey, maybe study for Jeopardy.
Yeah. Actress Carrie Preston shared a photo of her framed Jeopardy clue that we send out to people when they're mentioned on Jeopardy. And it sparked a Reddit thread. Does Jeopardy make souvenirs for people referenced in clues? Someone joked, this is officially the only reason I'd ever want to be famous. And we do. We have a whole process administered by you, Sarah Foss.
But it's not one of those, send us an email and you get a clue.
No.
We actually go through each of the games.
You get a clue. You get
yes,
a clue.
you get a clue. We're not Oprah, but we do go through all of the games ahead of time, and we just kind of pick out people who maybe we haven't featured in a clue before, or someone that we haven't reached out to previously, and we do send them a clue like this. Oftentimes when we go and shoot with our celebrities, we will go into the database and find out how many times they have been mentioned in a clue. We'll oftentimes find their very first clue and frame that and present it to them. And time again, the biggest celebrities will say, it wasn't until my parents saw me on Jeopardy that I really felt like I made it. So it's a great moment.
Two things. One, I got a text this week from Karine Jean-Pierre, who was mentioned in a clue. Was so excited. Former
with a beautiful picture.
Yeah, press secretary under Joe Biden, and she was very excited to be featured in a clue. And you mentioned that the biggest celebrities. Just a word out there. If Emma Stone, if you are listening to the Inside Jeopardy podcast or anybody connected to Emma Stone, we have put together the most beautiful piece of art. When Emma went on, I think it was Stephen Colbert, on his show and said that, what she really wanted more than anything else was to be on Jeopardy.
That she's
not
taking
Celebrity
the test.
Jeopardy. She wants to be on Jeopardy. She's taking the test. And we went back and we actually looked and she had taken the test.
Yes.
And we put together this beautiful, game board of all of the clues that we've asked on Jeopardy about Emma Stone, the movies that Emma Stone has been in, And it's sitting there just outside my office. I've
Yes.
got a beautiful art piece in my office, which is the April Fool's game from Jeopardy. And so anybody, Emma, we'd love to get it to you.
Yeah,
We've
it's,
tried so many different ways to get it to you,
Yeah.
but
Now, I will say, Emma,
We're
it
going
is
on
large.
Inside Jeopardy
We
as
did
well.
tell Michael maybe smaller. He said no,
No.
bigger is better. So it's a large piece of art, Emma. If
for
you have
one
a
of your homes,
giant wall that
it
just
will
needs a
work.
little something,
it will
we've
work.
got
It's beautiful.
the perfect piece. Well, in prime time, believe it or not, Michael, Masters came to an end last evening. A big block. You know, we had those final 2 semifinals and then the 2-game total point affair final. Hard to believe that it is over, but we will be discussing those games from last night. I also had a chance to have a great interview with Yogesh. Yes, you know, he won. Right after he did win, and we're going to be putting that up today as well. So bonus, you get Inside Jeopardy, you get an exclusive interview, you get it all right here.
And just mentioning that it comes to an end, I'm already getting anxiety because now I've got to write my Substack post, which goes out every single week from the control room, in which I'm writing about Jeopardy. I'm writing about other shows I produce. I'm writing about the TV business. And we just put out one. I wrote about the life cycle of a clue. I was
I
so
loved
interested
that.
in how, every single person, how many people, how many processes touch a single clue that appears on our show. In each episode of Masters, 122 clues. In this 2-hour special, that would be 244 clues. This is a lot of material, and every single one of these clues takes so much attention.
Well, and even I learned things about the journey because, you know, we each touched these clues at different parts of their journey. And so I really enjoyed it, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. You can check
It's a
that
good
out
read.
on my
Good
Substack
read.
at Embassy
The
Davies
Substack.
or from the control room. I've also got a little sports quiz there for the international sports quizzes out there at Sports Quiz International. Okay, let's get into it.
Well, we're going to recap those final 2 semifinal games and the finals. But, you know, the quarterfinals ended last week. We kicked off the semifinals and we had to say goodbye to Matt Amodio and Roger Craig. We're so lucky that on Jeopardy, we do really get the best of our super champions. And so they leave us, you know, Roger's taking home 50,000, Matt Amodio taking home 75,000. So I would say it wasn't even about the money for them, Michael. It was about the Jeopardy journey, and I'm sure we will be seeing them again.
Without a doubt. And I actually wrote that every time I say goodbye to Matt on the stage, it's bittersweet because I hate to see him go, but at the same time, I always know he's going to be back. Roger, you know, I felt, and you and I spoke about this yesterday, I feel like Roger is really close to being back at his best, but it's been, you know, he came back on JIT and did really well for somebody who hadn't played a lot of Jeopardy over the last few years. And felt at times, I think, a little bit outbuzzed during Masters, but that's easy. I mean, these people are superb on the buzzer, superb at the game. But I feel like he's close. I think Roger is close. I think we're going to be seeing not only more of Roger on the stage, I think we're going to see him winning a lot more games.
And will he be playing his wife, Julia Collins?
Oh, we
Because,
hope
you
so.
know, that would be fun too.
That would be fun.
And now a quick word from our sponsor. If you've shopped online, chances are you've bought from a business powered by Shopify. You know that purple Shop Pay button you see at checkout? That's Shopify. And there's a reason so many businesses sell with it. Because Shopify makes it incredibly easy to start and run your business. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. So get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style. Plus, you can tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. So if you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Jeopardy. Go to shopify.com/Jeopardy. Shopify.com/Jeopardy. And now back to Inside Jeopardy. All right, we're going to get into last night's shows. First up, we had our third semifinal game with Victoria, Isaac, and Juveria. Victoria put on a dominant performance, 31 correct responses, including all 3 daily doubles, ended Double Jeopardy with 32,400 points, an impressive runaway win, securing 3 more match points, something she's been doing a lot of in Masters, and of course, a spot in the finals. Juveria finishes in second place with 1 match point, and Isaac then in third. If you look back at the stats, Michael, Victoria undefeated in the semifinals and the quarterfinals. At this point, she's only lost 1 game, and that was that knockout game against Yogesh. 31 correct responses, second most we've seen in a single game of Masters history, second only to James Holzhauer, who once had 35 correct responses. And Michael, you know in Masters, when you're going up against competition like this, to see that amount of correct responses, that's incredible gameplay.
Yeah, and to put it even more in context, a Coriat score of 30,600 points. That's the highest we've ever seen in Masters history, beating James Holzhauer's record of 30,000 in Season 1 of Masters.
Another thing I loved about this game was our Black History and Genealogy category. We got to shoot this with Henry Louis Gates Jr. This is a category we actually wrote back for Masters Season 1. Billy wrote this. Henry was supposed to shoot with us. His schedule didn't work out, and so we've been wanting him for all these years. We finally got to shoot with him. Great category, great human, really enjoyed it, and a great clue reader. Well, Ken did catch up with Victoria after that impressive win, and she revealed a little unique pregame ritual.
The record in Jeopardy Masters this year was 29 correct responses in a game. You broke your own record in that game with 31 correct responses on 51 attempts. It's a fantastic game. Wow. You seem to be getting better and better.
The games that I've played the best, it's probably no coincidence that they were like I'd already secured moving on.
I see.
So there's a looseness. And then also, I remembered to eat a banana right before I played, which seems to, like, the little ready carbs seems to help.
Is that the secret?
I think so, yeah. A little
the ions in your brain needed the potassium?
A little potassium, a little sugar, and whatever reason, I play better if I eat a banana.
How many bananas did you two eat before the game?
I hate bananas.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Isaac.
I think I've secured 4th place. I
More
hate
bananas for me.
Javeria, you pro banana, anti banana?
I cannot eat when I am in this building. So if I were to eat, I would throw up on Isaac, which would be a great way to secure third.
Well, he's wearing light colors. I mean, that might help.
Are you saying I have a puke-colored suit? I thought it was nice.
It kind of depends on what she had in this hypothetical lunch. We don't know. It's a great suit.
It's a great suit.
Well, not many people are anti-banana, but hand it to Isaac for having a unique take.
Yeah, you pro banana?
I mean, I'm not anti-banana.
All right.
I can tell you that.
Ken and I love a good banana with a little peanut butter. That's
Okay.
kind of our pre-show. We have our own little pre-show ritual.
Okay,
Come
there you
by
go.
anytime.
So then we head into our last semi-final game. That was Yogesh, Juveria, and Isaac. With the last 2 spots in the final on the line, Yogesh responded correctly to the first clue of the game and never lost his lead. He had his eyes set on a runaway, but Juveria was able to stay in contention entering final. At this point, Yogesh and Juveria had already effectively locked up their spots in finals with a guaranteed first or second place finish. All 3 players were correct in final, and Yogesh and Juveria are heading to the finals, and we say goodbye to Isaac.
We do, but he leaves us with $100,000. He said, sweet message as his final Jeopardy response. What a great time I had. Congrats to the final 3, also St. Lucia. I love it. He gave a message, but he also wanted us to know that he knew the correct response. And we just have heard that he might be in the market for a ring, he shared. So congratulations to he and his fiance. They've been together for 6 years. So I think, I hope that we're all invited to the wedding because those are going to be some happy nuptials.
Yeah, Juveria had a good game here that was, I think, important
Yes.
for her heading into the finals. And this was a good game. This was a good second-place win. And, she was emotional at every single point through this tournament. And this was another, second place, but this was an emotional second-place finish for her.
Well, and I think it's just remarkable, and you and I talked about this. We talk about the postseason, and she is the first person who has ever now played in all of these competitions.
Every tournament, yeah.
Every single one, from Second Chance to Champions Wildcard to Tournament of Champions to the Invitational Tournament, and now to Masters. What an incredible story. And not every game, was she in her zone, but she was in a game like this, and I think really just proved that she's done everything she can, and she deserves to be a master.
Yeah, the poster doctor for the
Yes.
for the Jeopardy postseason.
Well, let's hear how our players were feeling after this game.
Well played, Yogesh. Congratulations. You had a great game there. 24 correct responses on 38 attempts, including the Welland Canal. That's a tough clue. I feel like, Juveria, you might have had a little too much canal knowledge.
My husband's dad used to take them to the Welland Canal all the time. Like, he was obsessed with the Welland Canal, and I hope he's not like rolling over in his grave now.
Well, we looked it up. You were only 1 year off with the Oswego Canal.
Okay.
So you just had an abundance of canal knowledge, Great
Canal
Lakes canal
maven.
knowledge. Exactly. You're almost too big a canal fan. Many people are saying this about you. What about Mrs. Gaskell, Yogesh? I thought that was not going to come to you, and then suddenly you had her.
I've written, I think, about her on my blog before, or at least I have a note to at some point, right? But I knew she did North and South. I was trying to remember if she did Cranford also.
Isaac, you leave us with another $100,000. I hope you had a good time at Jeopardy Masters.
I did. Again, my goal coming into this was to not get 9th place. So, getting out of the quarterfinals and then into the semis and everything, that's just been like gravy for me. So I've been thrilled. I have I lost, so I have a few regrets, but I have very few regrets about the whole experience, and it's been fun.
Great sport. Gotta love Isaac. All right, on to game 1 of the finals with Victoria, Yogesh, and Juveria. It was a close Jeopardy round between all 3 of our players, but Yogesh took a narrow lead over Victoria heading into Double Jeopardy. After missing the first Daily Double in the round, Victoria went all in on the last Daily Double to take back the lead from Yogesh, which she did maintain entering final. Unfortunately, Juveria spent much of the round in the red. She was unable to get out of the hole in time for final, and so Victoria and Yogesh did play in that round. They were incorrect. Yogesh dropped to 0 after going all in. Victoria ended with 14,400 points and a big lead heading into game 2. But interestingly enough, Juveria ends up at 0 as well. So we head into game 2 with 2 of our players tied at 0, Victoria with a big lead, but we've learned a lot from these 2-game total point affairs, and that is, as we will see, anything can happen.
Yeah, very tough final Jeopardy ruling for Yogesh.
Yeah, another great category, Paul Tazwell, who, if you see him, you know him, obviously did the incredible costumes for Wicked and also for so many other Broadway shows. We had the chance to go to his apartment and actually shoot with him there. And even our writers, although they were familiar with him at some level, didn't realize that it was actually Paul Tazwell and not Paul Tazewell because it's spelled differently. So we're all learning in the process. And they really did come up with a beautiful category, ways to incorporate the things that he's worked on, but also just costuming in history through movies. And it was a beautiful category.
Yeah, and hats off to our clearance department who do such an amazing job clearing all the video, all the stills, all the pictures that we put on the program.
Yes.
It's a big difference.
And I can really be on location and take a picture of something in the background, and Katie and team in minutes can say, you're good, or no, take it down, switch it out. So, there is, as you mentioned, so many people that go into all of this.
So, counting the first half of this final as an individual Jeopardy game.
Yes.
The fascinating thing is in head-to-head, in this series of Masters, Victoria is now 6-1 against Yogesh head-to-head during this tournament. But this is the amazing thing about Jeopardy, the amazing thing about Jeopardy Masters. Yogesh won the very first game of Jeopardy Masters, and now we find out what happened in the very last game of Jeopardy Masters. We closed it out, an incredible game between all 3 players, we should say. It kicked off with a near-perfect Jeopardy round with only 1 incorrect response combined. In Double Jeopardy, Juveria found the first Daily Double, said, pray for me, went all in, doubling up for the lead. Yogesh then found the last Daily Double, also went all in to retake the lead from Juveria. He ended the round with 36,000 points, and despite his 0 points from game 1, he was in the driver's seat entering final. All 3 players were correct, and Yogesh became our 3rd Masters champion.
Yes, different champion every season that we have done this. Interestingly enough, our champions from the previous season, they've all finished in 3rd place. So I don't know how that bodes for Yogesh, but he takes home $500,000 in addition to the $100,000 charity donation that Jeopardy will be making. And he's now 6th on the leaderboard of legends for money earned. So, to think that just a few years ago, he hadn't even yet competed on the stage. He comes, he competes, he's a 3-game champion. And because of the way the numbers ran that year, he comes back and he's in the TOC and he wins the TOC. And then he's in Masters and now he comes back and wins Masters. So it's really just an incredible story. And congratulations to Yogesh Raut, our 3rd Masters champion.
Yeah. And, what I really felt about Yogesh, both on the stage and rewatching all of these episodes as I've been writing about them on a weekly basis, is that Yogesh had sort of a Zen-like quality about him in this tournament. He came in very calm. He's been on this stage before. He knows what it's like to compete against Victoria. And I do feel like he was pacing himself. He wasn't getting too up on a win. He wasn't getting too down when it wasn't going his way. And even with, you know, the ruling against him in Final Jeopardy in the first half, he bounce back ability, I say, is such an important element in all sports, especially in raising children, as you know, Sarah. And I think that what Yogesh was able to do to bounce back, to maintain his calm, maintain his focus, and bring it, you know, in a 2-game total point affair, he just had to nail that second game. I feel for Victoria. She had such an amazing tournament. She played one weaker game in this entire tournament. Maybe the first game she played against Yogesh, but this was like a tough game for her. She had 15 corrects, which against elite competition isn't easy, but it was not her best game. And, you know, that's what it takes in a final. If you don't bring it, like in the final of any major, final round of a major golf tournament, you know, the final of a tennis tournament, the final of the Champions League, the Super Bowl, whatever it is, she just wasn't quite able to bring it. And Yogesh, you know, a very, very worthy winner of Jeopardy Masters.
Well, I think, too, what Yogesh knows, what Victoria knows, what Juveri, what all of these masters know is that there are so many variances that happen within a game of Jeopardy. And Yogesh would be the first person to tell you that, you know, he won the Tournament of Champions a couple years ago against Troy and Ben, and they are phenomenal Jeopardy players. So he didn't walk away from that saying, I'm the best Jeopardy player. He knew that a lot of things had to work out, and he's a great Jeopardy player, but he played against other greats. And I think just as we were talking about a Masters, it could have gone any way. But this time, you know, Yogesh fought till the end. He came back from 0, like you said, stayed calm and pulled off a big win. We do have an interview with him. Feel free to watch that later today on YouTube as well if you can't get your Masters fill. All right, it's time for our host chat. And an audience member asked Ken, during your run, what was it like for the competitors to walk into the green room and see that you were still there?
Yeah, so my first, I want to say 48 games, if I'm remembering right, all taped before my run started to air. They were trying to bank shows for the hiatus at that point. So we taped a ton of shows before any of them aired. And so those people like had an unhappy surprise when it's like, oh, and here's our returning champion. He's been here 48 days. Nobody was happy. But then there was an even worse thing after that, where people would come back having seen me, because the second I walked in from the parking garage, they'd be like, this guy. And to be fair, I'm used to that when I walk into a room, but like, it was even worse then.
So funny.
A little Sam Buttrey sighting there. Sam Buttrey front and center. I love to see a little Sam Buttrey sighting.
I love that. The self-deprecating wit of Ken Jennings.
I know. He's so good.
Well, that's it for today's show. We're going to be back in July for a special season 41 wrap-up pod. Wow.
Yes. Got to do it. Wrap up the highlights, the lowlights, all of the things. You know, the season will wrap up on July 25th. We'll then go into 6 weeks of reruns where we're going to feature the TOC. You're going to see the JIT again. And, you know, we'll just curate the best stuff to get you ready for season 42.
Okay. See you then.
See you then.
Hey, thanks for watching. Click on the subscribe button and don't miss a moment.